notes, okay, guys? Sound good? I'll try to interact a good bit with chat here. Get your guys' thoughts on things as well. Tell you guys my thoughts on things. I don't usually do patch notes reviews, but I kind of I actually didn't like this patch too much. I actually have some things that I dislike and want to talk about, and a lot of people seem to love the patch and kind of agree with everything. So maybe this is a more important segment to do, because some things I disagree with. Although one thing I will say is, of course, the skin game is on point. Look at these skins. I mean, look at this skin. He's a freaking hammerhead shark. We got Azula Pele, obviously from Naruto. We all know that. Then we got all these monster, was it Monster Cat? Yeah, Monster Cat Battle Pass skins, which are awesome. Crabrave Khepri. You already know we're going to be making some Crabrave Khepri videos. Khepri solos, okay? You already know that. But yeah, of course, Smite game always on point. Smite art team is amazing. Remodel for Athena looks good. This on her skin looks awesome. I mean, you can't complain. Honestly, you cannot complain about the Smite skins ever, really. Maybe here and there, but you know, whatever. Yo, Angrier Canine, thank you for the 11 months in a row. Is that a name change? I swear that's a name change. Thank you for the resub. Welcome back to the Fonzo family. If it's not a name change, then I'm a shit streamer. So, some quality of life stuff, don't really care about that. Some bug fixes, yada yada yada, that's awesome. Actually, sometimes bug fixes actually have some pretty big gameplay implications, but honestly, I just don't feel like reading it. Anyway, wait, why am I getting this? Hello? It better be fixed. I'm getting, dude, it's not even showing the art for the things. Is this happening to anybody else? Is this happening to anybody else? This happens on Smite's website pretty often, though, so maybe. Yeah. Okay. Well, it just happens on Smite, so unfortunate we can't see the art for it, but that's fine. We all still know what it looks like and what we're talking about here. Hopefully, maybe some new players aren't, but. So first of all, they nerfed Wind Demon. This is a good change. This was the one like really important thing that they needed to do. Wind Demon is just way overstated. It gives you everything. It's a crit path item, but you still get pen. You still get attack speed. You still get movement speed, like percent pen at that as well. It just gave you everything that you wanted, and it was just way too good of an item. So definitely needed to nerf that. Shell, I think this is actually another pretty good change. This is another item that definitely needed to be nerfed. It completely countered certain characters, especially auto attack junglers. It's part of the reason auto attack junglers are pretty horrible, especially in the late game, including characters like Pele. So now Pele is going to be more viable, because now instead of the shell blocking autos, it just makes it so you take 50% less damage from basic attacks for as long as they have the health shield. Now, I actually think it's good that they changed shell and they took off the block stacks. That was definitely a good thing, but I think Shell's gonna be pretty dog meat now. I don't really see a reason to buy this item anymore, because it's only for basic attacks that you take the reduced damage, which means if you get hit by a random mage ability, if the hunter just uses like a hard-hitting ability on you, if you just get hit by anything in the middle of the team fight and the health shield goes away, you are no longer taking that reduced damage. So if you're actually trying to buy an item to counter the ADCs, you just go Horrific. Upgraded Horrific is so much better, especially now. And you don't go upgraded Horrific and Shell, because then you don't have Blink. And if you don't have Blink on a support or a jungler or a solo, then you're just trolling. So I think this is actually a pretty dog meat relic now, but that's fine. I don't really care. I think it's good that they changed the block stacks. Alternate timeline getting buffed. I'm consistently get more and more disappointed with how much power and burst they add into the game. Like, this is an item that's supposed to help you survive, purely for surviving. It gives you prots, it gives you CDR, and it gives you a passive that basically makes you res yourself, right? Like, you can't die. It's the alternate timeline. Everybody knows what it does. And instead of having it 45 power, it's now at 70 plus the prots plus the passive. And I just think that they keep doing this to items. Like, this is a bruiser item, and now it has 70 power on it. And 70 power isn't like, you know, there's a lot of mage items with like 100 and stuff like that, but none of those other items give you this many defensive stats plus passive, you know. So I kind of think that they're just adding too much power to things, and maybe I don't even like. I feel like there wasn't a lot of even like time to experiment with the recent buff to alternate timeline. reduction in the cooldown of the passive, they didn't really give it time to, what's the word here? Give it time to boil. No, not to boil. To simmer. No, not to simmer. To marinate. To marinate. There you go. They didn't give it time to marinate, and just after one patch, boom, increased by 25 power. You know, 25 power is actually a decent amount, so it is what it is. Not that big of a deal, although it will be very, I feel like this, the more and more they want to make this item good, the less and less fun it will be trying to kill mages with this item. It's just like, but it is what it is. Archmage's Gem added 200 mana. I actually don't mind this. This one actually kind of makes sense. Gives it more clear path for which item you want to go. Upgraded, and Archmage's was being a bit overshadowed by Gem of Focus before. But the thing is, Gem of Focus is a really, really good item, I think. And they buffed it. So I don't really know exactly why they did that. I think it's because they nerf mages a little bit in other items. And a lot of people at the dev team are former mid players. And a lot of people like playing mages on the dev team, I think. So a lot of times when they nerf stuff, they really overcompensate with other buffs. I think a lot of these mage changes were kind of unnecessary, but I mean, sure, buff Gem of Focus, even though it's already a really, really good item. Like, really, really good item. But it is what it is. J-Mac, thanks for the 43 months in a row, man. Welcome back to the Fonzo family. I appreciate it. What's up, Triclip Thunder? Have a good night too, Chive. Thank you for the support today. So yeah, I think this change is good. This change is stupid. Boomba's Spear. Boomba's Spear. Oh, this is the other one. I was about to say, I thought this was the Boomba's Hammer change, but wait, what? Why did they do it like this? Why didn't they just put Boomba's Spear and Boomba's Hammer right next to each other? Regardless, they added 10% CDR to Boomba's Spear. They removed the 200 mana, and they also provided a 10% power buff for 10 seconds after. It's a 10-second duration after jungle camp structures, jungle bosses are killed or whatever, and no longer provides bonus gold on jungle camp structures and jungle bosses. I mean, with the nerfs to jungle or to Boomba's Hammer, you might be able to see this picked up more. But I don't really think it's that great. I think the problem is if you're playing a character that's going to be like destroying these jungle camps and jungle bosses and stuff, and you want to go up an item like this, you're probably just going the Eye of the Jungle as your start, because it's a lot better for those kind of like auto attack characters or characters that are going to be focusing down objectives like Erlang and, you know, maybe even like Nemesis or something like that. So, now this is one change that I like and dislike. I like it because I think it actually makes it more viable. And I think that it also maybe you might be able to see this built in solo lane now. So Manikin Hidden Blade, they removed the basic attack power. It gave you 75 basic attack damage before. Now it gives you 60 physical power if you're a physical character, 90 magical power if you're a magical. And then they also increased the bonus damage on the passive from 15% of the target's current health to 20%. Now keep in mind, this works on objectives. So if you have this item and you walk up to a fire giant and you haven't taken or done damage in the last 5 seconds, you will instantly do 20% of the fire giant's health if you just hit it with an ability or auto attack it. Now it does work off of your penetration. It's not true damage, so if you have a lot of penetration, it's more likely that you're going to hit the 20% of the health. If you have no penetration and this is your only item that does damage, then it's pretty unlikely that you're going to hit it for 20%. It'll probably be something more like 10% or 8% or something. I don't know, some random number. The reason I dislike this item, even though I think it might be fun to pick up in solo now, is that it's just more burst in the game. Like, you just have to be out of combat for 5 seconds and you can instantly do 20% of a tank's health with this build if you have enough penetration. 20%. They have 6 items. Let's say every single one of their items gives them health and some protections. You're basically removing instantly in a team fight 20% of all the work they put into their build. Obviously, it's not like work, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just so much burst. And to combine that with the 60 power that it now gives in physical, like, that is a lot of power. In solo lane specifically, the reason I might like it is just because this could be like your only damage item. You could have this, like, whatever boots you want and maybe a void shield and the rest tank items, and I bet you you're going to slap on certain characters with this. So like and dislike this change. Just more and more burst added. It's just a little bit rough. Chroma Paradise, thank you for the 2 months in a row. Welcome back to the Fonzo family. Much appreciated. In fact, this might, you know what's troll about this is that they just changed Warrior's Axe. They literally just changed Warrior's Axe to make it so mids and like, you know, mids and maybe even like ADCs and stuff like that, or Sundering Axe, I should say, make it so they can't really go it and make it more based off of the prots. But what if a mid laner just skips their start and then goes this later on in the game? It still gives you 90 magical power. So if you're a mage and you buy this late game and you instantly do 20% of people's health with the passive, didn't they literally just change an item to make sure that this wasn't a thing? So just more bursts. Not sure. So Seer the Jungle changes. This item was basically never bought. So they increased the attack speed from 15 to 30%, increased the duration of the buff on the passive, allows you to see words from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. It's a nice change because it's not ever bought. So the fact that it has 30% on it now of attack speed might make it more worth it. But the problem is the passive is just so weird to me. It's like, it's such a win more item, and it's really weird to want to destroy wards after you do objectives. You know? Like, after you do the Gold Fury, you can destroy their wards. Wouldn't you want to be able to destroy their wards before you do the Gold Fury so that you can actually pull the objective? If you're in a spot in a game where you can do the objective while warded and then be able to destroy the wards after, you're just it's just so much win more. The item is just so much win more, especially because it's like a late game item. If this is like, since you have to upgrade it to this, you have to be level 20 for it. And in order to be level 20 for it, like the game is it's basically over before you get to this point. So you just rather have an item that actually makes you better in the team fight itself. So maybe the 30% can do that, but for the most part, I don't see it. These two changes I very, very much dislike. I mean, you guys know me, Warrior's Axe and Warding Sigil, they're very, very boring lane items. They increase the protection on Warding Sigil as I like to call it, from 10 to 15, just making you tankier in lane, even though you were already really tanky with this item. And they also made it so you sustain more, steal more health over the course of the entire game with Warrior's Axe, because they reduced the cooldown of the passive from 10 to 8 seconds and then increased the health steal from 25 to 30. I just don't like these changes. I think that in order to make items like this more viable, if you want to do that, which I don't think you should want to do, because I think the lane has been really, really fun lately with the introduction of like having Bluestone be really meta. You can actually punish each other now. If somebody plays the lane bad, you can kill them because you're really squishy. And having items like this just make it so much more, just so much more dull in lane. It becomes a game of just sitting at your tower line, not being able to kill each other. And the more and more likely that these items are viable, the more and more boring the solo lane will be. So I just personally don't like these. I think they need to take it into a different route completely. Maybe make these items more aggressive, or maybe nerf the other items that are really, really good, just so there's like some level of competition there, because you basically can never buy these right now, because Bluestone and other items actually give you physical power, which allow you to sell your blue buff on cooldown, allow you to farm the map really well, and you'll just outscale somebody basically. It goes on buff camps too. Yeah. Okay, that's true, guys. But you're buying it level 20. If you're walking around the map destroying jungle camps just to kill wards at level 20, I mean, it's not just to do that, but like, it just doesn't really make sense. You don't. It's not that we're talking about Seer the Jungle, by the way. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense that this is something that you'd want at a level 20. You just rather want an item that just makes you win a team fight in order to win the game. This isn't gonna win you the game. Maybe it gets you a ward in a certain spot, like maybe you do their back camps before fire and it allows you to de-ward like before they can walk in. That I could see. Maybe there's some value there, but for the most part, you just rather have an item that will help you win the team fight itself, which Boombas would do. Or Protector of the Jungle for that matter. So yeah, and then these two changes I don't really like. Benevolence, they just fixed that. Basically, it was a bug.
My Jade Dragons jersey should arrive on Monday. Get us that championship, buddy. We all believe in you, Fineokay.
Salt, thank you so much for the 10 months, man. Welcome back to the Fonzo family. I will do my best. Thank you for getting the jersey, dude. I hope you enjoy it. So this was basically a bug fix. It just now only gives it to one nearby ally. So if you all 5 go it, not everybody gets the increased gold. So that's nice. Compassion getting a buff, weird. It's being bought like basically always, not in every single game because Sentinels is still pretty good, but it's like 50-50 and it depends on what you want to do. What the heck just happened? Did I just Google search that? Oh, I just Google searched that, my bad. Anyway, so yeah, they buffed this for some reason, give it 8 gold per 5. Don't think that was necessary. Already really bought off pretty often. Sentinel's Boon, they're buffing it because it's now basically never bought because they fixed the bug on the passive. Honestly, they just need to do something completely different with this item. I don't think it can ever compete with Sentinel's Embrace now. I don't think it can now. So I think they should just go a completely different route with this item and not make it do what it currently does. But I mean, since it is bad, buffing it is in the right direction. Sharon's Coin, this is a good change. They buffed it a little bit. It's, in my opinion, I don't play mid. Sometimes this item just feels like awkward to buy and doesn't feel amazing, especially because you want to start stacking it, but it's a percent pen item, so you don't really want to go it really early on in your build because you want it later, a little bit later on in the game when flat pen falls off a little bit and percent pen gets a lot better. You know, like it's just like kind of in that weird spot. So reducing the cost of it, increasing the magic power a little bit, just makes it a much better like feeling item in that mid game spot where you want to maybe purchase it so you can start stacking it up. So honestly, a good change to Sharon's. That would be cool, Moswell, if it could stack off of objectives. I think that'd be cool. Same with Urchin, yeah. I think maybe Urchin would be bought every game if that was the case, but maybe not. Book of Thoth buff, I also think is decent. I'm not like the biggest fan of this, but it's not that big of a deal. They just increased the contribution of the mana, like the percent damage that you get from mana. They increased it by 1, so not that big, but it'll probably end up being like, it'll probably end up being like 15-20 power late game. I don't really know. Don't know the exact math, but and they also increased the MP5 from 15 to 20. So honestly, just like a whatever change. Not amazing, but not horrible. And there aren't a lot of characters that build Book of Thoth right now. It's really just like Kukulkan and like May. I guess that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, probably a good step in the right direction. Now this is a change I don't like. They added 12% lifesteal Spear of the Magus, the only item in the flat pen tree that now has lifesteal, so that's just kind of inconsistent and weird in my opinion. It's not the end of the world, and it can make sense in the right scenario, but I just don't think this is the right scenario for it. I would rather have seen Spear of Desolation kind of like hard nerfed. It didn't really get nerfed that much at all, so the only reason Spear of the Magus really isn't ever bought is because Spear of Deso is just so much better on mages in the mid lane, but also just even on like guardians and stuff, and also just in general because of how much it does and how much cooldown reduction it gives you. So this is just kind of a random change, but it's a big buff to Anubis. So if you're an Anubis main, you're going to be feeling pretty good about this. Now these two tank item changes I kind of like. They decrease the time it heals to from Male Renewal passive from 20 seconds to 10 seconds, which is nice, but they also decrease the health because that's a pretty big buff to make it heal quicker and not take as long. That's a pretty big buff for Male of Renewal. So when they first introduced it or said on the patch notes, everybody kind of thought this was going to be an amazing item, but it's just, the problem is the passive, there's the cooldown on it, and because there's the cooldown on it, you don't get the protections when it's on cooldown, so you actually don't really get that tanky from the item, but it can be pretty decent. It can be a nice 3rd or 4th item in solo. I think maybe sometimes supports can go it to, you know, start healing their team in the mid game. And then this one I just like wholeheartedly agree with. Stone of Foul, just a little too expensive for what it does and the base stats that it gives you. It doesn't give you a ton of everything, just like 35 of each prat. Or is it 30? Something like that. So not really that valuable of an item, not like super luxury. So they just reduced it by 150 gold. Just a nice change, I think. And now we're getting into the biggest downfall, the biggest gripe I have with this patch. So if you guys know me or watched me for a while, you guys know that I love Persephone. She's one of my favorite characters in the game. I've played a ton of Persephone solo. I've made like a how to play Persephone video on my YouTube a few times, and it has like a ton of views. Like people like to learn how to play the character, I think. I mean, it has more views than a lot of other videos. I get asked to play Persephone solo all the time. She's a fun mid. She's fun to jungle, especially with her plants, running around just planting your stuff. So basically, I just think this character is awesome, right? And they're completely changing her, basically. Everything, not everything, but for the most part, this character is going to be very, very different. I don't want to go into the ins and outs of how she's different. You know, I'll have the patch notes. If this is a video, it'll be in the description. You guys on my stream have already probably read all this. But what I will say is that I really just think that this character needed a passive change. If they just changed her passive so you couldn't kill people while you were dead, almost all of the frustration of playing against this character would go away. Like, I feel like almost all the frustration of playing against this character would go away. The only other thing is that the burst damage from not being able to recognize when she's exploding her 2 after her dash, like you can do a lot of burst damage. It's really hard to avoid it and see that it's coming. That's a little bit frustrating, but I can name like 100 other characters that have frustrating parts of their kit that are still like, it's really just a passive in my opinion. And if they just had changed the passive and kept some things pretty similar, just adjusted the numbers a little bit and maybe made some small changes, tweaked it here and there, and not completely reworked the character, I would have been much happier, because I feel like the identity of this character has changed quite a bit, and I don't know. Some of these things I'm gonna have to see. Like I'm gonna actually have to test out and play and see, get a feel for. But from what I'm reading and what I just like thought about, after playing this character a ton, I've played so much Persephone. I am kind of sad that they're changing her this much. And apparently she had a really low win rate. She had like a 43% win rate or something, 42% win rate. But I just think that's because she's a hard character, man. I just think she's a really hard character to get really good at. And it's okay. I think it's okay to have some characters like that. I mean, I don't know. That's just how I see it. Again, just change her passive. Just change her passive and she would have been fine, in my opinion. Gilgamesh just getting nerfed because he's a little bit overtuned. Like, everybody always asks me, what do I think of Gilgamesh? I just think he's slightly overtuned. So, made it so his stun is not going to last as long, especially at rank 5. And then they also decreased the burst damage from his 1. Kind of a really easy confirmable damage ability with a low cooldown. So, just nerfing that. Even though it's 20 damage at max rank, a lot of people don't see that as a lot. But that's over the course of an entire game, and that really adds up to being a lot less damage. So, especially on a character, on an ability with low cooldown. So, what's up, Legion? Couldn't counterplay her tier 2 plants. To be fair, instant burst. Yeah, I know, man, but like, I don't know. There's so many mage abilities that have instant burst. The counterplay would be to avoid it, Aegis it, kill her. That's just how Smite is. Not only that, but she's actually fallen off quite a bit. Like, there's so many characters that are good into her, good at diving her, and you know. But yeah. Oh, my bad. So Tiamat, they nerfed her minions. They nerfed her minion spawning, so they only spawn 2 sets instead of 3 sets now. So there'll be 4 little lobsters, little minions, whatever you want to call them, little lizards. I don't know what they are. I think they're lobsters. So now only 4 instead of 6. So that's just going to help with the split pushing, which is a good change because it is a frustrating part of a kit. Although it is a part of her kit that I do enjoy because it makes macro play pretty cool. Like she's one of the few characters in the game that can do like macro play basically on her own. Buff Bakasura. Bakasura is pretty dog meat these days, so I don't mind this change. Although I will say the fact that Shell has got completely changed, and the fact that auto attack junglers are going to be a lot better now that Shell isn't nearly as good. Maybe they didn't really need to do this to Baka. He actually might be running the ranked streets now, especially with all the farm on the map, and that now that Shell's basically gone. I think maybe any buffs to auto attack characters can be a little bit weird. Bellona buffs, character's still shit. Sorry guys, she's just been power creeped to all hell. This is a cool change. Chiron is now knock up immune while galloping. One of the more unsafe characters in the game. Very easy to kill, very easy to basically interrupt his 3. You can knock it up, you can fear it, you can silence it, you can stun it. And I guess now you can't knock it up anymore, which also means it's knockback immune. In Smite, if something is knock-up immune, it also means they're knockback immune. So if you were to on her to this ability, it no longer will stop it. So honestly, a pretty good change. Chiron, just so unpickable because of his dash. Partly because of his dash, but this definitely will help push him in the right direction. And it also might mean he could be viable in mid because he's not going to be getting just destroyed by like a, you know, like a Blink Sobek or something. Be a lot more safer against that, even though he still will be able to get plucked by him because it's a stun into a knockback or knock throw, whatever you want to call it. Pluck. Daji, another change similar to Baka, where Daji's not really that great right now. So the changes aren't necessarily bad, but the fact that Shell is no longer going to be countering Daji is a really big buff to her. So maybe buffing her in the same patch as taking Shell out is kind of unnecessary. I think this character is going to get a lot better now that Shell is out of the game. So I say Shell is out of the game. It's not out of the game, but it does something completely different, really. And it also isn't going to get picked up, in my opinion, by any good player for the most part. So yeah, agree and disagree with this change. Fafnir, just some buffs to his cooldowns, which include both his regular form and his dragon form. So both the cooldowns on his 2. Wait, no, that's his 1. Actually, I don't know. It's his 3. It's his 1 and his 3. It says it right here. I don't know why it's Coerce. His 2 is called Coerce. A little trivia for you guys, whatever. So they buffed the cooldowns of it. I think these are nice changes. Fafnir isn't the greatest right now. A lot more aggressive supports who can just run it down, don't have to rely on their team, are a lot more viable. So just buffing him is a step in the right direction, I think. So that's good. Hera getting some buffs. I'm fine with this. Not the greatest mage in the meta. Increase the magical power scaling of her too, her polymorph, so it hits a lot harder. And then also basically giving a nice little buff to the shield, so it's a little bit higher. And it also is based off of her level now, so that's kind of nice scaling. Cuckoo already like decent in the meta. People have been playing him. You've seen him in the SPL. Probably underrated at across a lot of levels of ranked. So I don't know if this was really needed, especially because they're buffing his 2, and that is a very frustrating ability to play against. I will tell you firsthand, I think most people know, if you ever dive a Cuckoo and he clicks 2 and he's just fast as fuck and is slow immune for like 8.8 seconds or something. I don't know what the exact number is, but and cleanses slows or something. It's a frustrating ability to play against, but not the biggest buff ever, so it's not really that big of a deal. Just 2 seconds at max rank, 0.5 each level. Medusa buffs. This character has seen quite a few buffs over the years now because she just hasn't been played for years. Kind of goes without saying. So they increased the healing debuff duration from 3 seconds to 4 seconds. I love changes like this. This is such a cool buff because it defines their role more so, and it makes it so it's much more viable, or it tries to help them be much more viable in their designated role. Medusa is a pretty good anti-heal character because her 3, even though it is her dash and it requires her to like basically be unsafe to apply her anti-heal, it helps with 1v1s. It maybe helps in the late game when somebody's diving you and they have lifesteal or something like that. Or maybe it's like a Vamana solo and you dash him. You know, there's scenarios where it could be good, but they also decrease the cooldown of it. And I just like changes like this where it kind of defines their role more. So it maybe doesn't define them too much more, but it gives their like a unique aspect of their kit. It just gives them more viability, I think. So that's cool. Mulan. So they increased the buff duration of her 1 and her 3 from 4 seconds to 6 seconds, and they also increased the stun duration of her 3 from 0.8 to 1 second on all ranks. I think it might get to a point, maybe this will be the point, or maybe if they keep going down the road, it might get to a point where her numbers are just so insane that she's just a super viable character. But the problem I have with Mulan, she just doesn't feel good to play, in my opinion. She's just animation locked too much in her 1 and her 2 and her 3 and her ult. Even though you can stop it now, you can cancel it. I think it says a lot about an ability that you want to cancel it because you just feel so bad to use it in the late game. So yeah, I just think, especially an ultimate ability, other abilities, it kind of makes sense. They're regular abilities, but a 90-second cooldown on ultimate, like, you know. So I kind of just think, I just kind of don't really, maybe she'll become viable because her numbers are so sick, even after this maybe. But it's just, just change her 3, make her 3 better. I don't know, make it so you can walk while using it, make it go a little bit faster. I think that change alone would make her just so much more viable, at least for me. But so yeah, I think that is the end of the patch. Yeah, that's the end of the patch, but there is the bonus patch notes. So let me see if I can grab those real quick. How do I get to those? News? Right here, bonus patch. So usually the bonus patch, there are some more skins, and of course they're awesome like they always are. The bonus patch, I like this Agni skin, by the way. That's a pretty cool Agni skin. Bonus patch is usually catered toward SPL. So you got to keep that in mind. Usually they keep the bonus patch for, you know, based on like what people in SPL are playing or what they need to nerf, buff, and stuff like that. So some of these changes are actually pretty nice. Spear of Deso getting nerfed, definitely needed the nerf. Definitely needs more nerfs after this, just because it goes from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. It's still going to be picked up very, very often. This is still a really, really good item. But Ansile 100% needed the nerf, 60 to 50 power, and also increased the cost by 100. I think this item's still going to be picked up very often. It's just so good against mages right now, and it's kind of defining the meta a good bit. So I think this item needed a nerf. I personally didn't think shifters needed a nerf. I think people building both Ansile and shifters, it's fine. And it might feel a little bit good for the jungler, but I don't actually think it's that great. And shifters has only been like a decent item for maybe like a couple months now. And honestly, if people don't buy shifters, they're just going to go Ansile Void Shield, which is a much better build in my opinion. And it actually gives you percent pen, makes you tankier because it gives you actual health. The only difference is that Shifter Shield is a good bit cheaper from Void Shield, but as a jungler, like, that's something that you can do. You can be pretty greedy with your builds, I think. So, I personally don't think Shifters really needed a nerf. I think just nerfing Ansile would have been just fine. So agree, disagree. Boom's Hammer, necessary, 100% necessary nerf. This item has just been ridiculous ever since they introduced it in Season 8. So they decreased the cooldown from 20% to 10%, which is really nice. Even though maybe people will just build Jodins now and still have full CDR by the time they get their Boombas. It's possible, but it's at least they kind of changed their build path a little bit because of it. And then they removed the percent pen, which is amazing in my opinion. Like, I hated this item so much. When I would 1v1 a jungler as a tank, I would be like, I would have a bunch of tank items specifically for them, and they would out trade me so hard, and I would feel like I was doing no damage to them because one, they were healing. They have percent pen for me, so they're actually just shredding through my prots. They're getting their cooldowns reduced because of the passive, so they're just spamming more than I am, and they just out trade basically everyone because of the item. And I think it's just a nice step in the right direction, and it actually maybe allows tanks to be a little bit more competitive with the jungler, especially in 1v1 scenarios late game. So that's nice. Some more Gilgamesh nerfs. They nerfed him in the regular patch, and they also nerfed him in the bonus patch. They got to be a little bit careful. You don't want to over nerf this boy. I don't think he's really that ridiculous. I think maybe people saying he's ridiculous are just kind of noob, like always with every new character. So they also nerfed Tiamat in the regular patch and the bonus patch. So that's another little double nerf. This one isn't too bad because the nerf in the regular patch kind of nerfed her macro, you know, split push potential, which is, I think, necessary. And they also nerfed her healing, which I don't know if this healing nerf is really that big of a deal. It's really the tankiness that's going to be like what's keeping her alive late game, not really the heals. So, but to be fair, this character is pretty bad early on in the game. I think that the fact that she can make cool macro plays late game and kind of carry team fights late game is kind of nice because her early game is pretty atrocious. So. What are you supposed to get percent pen with now though? Just Heartseeker and what? Titan's Bane, Serrated, Void Shield, Executioner, then just go flat pen, Stone Cutting, Crusher, Jotuns, Brawlers, Toxic Blade. Trust me, there's plenty of there's plenty of pen items in the game for physicals. And Titan's Bane is really, really good. So moving on, Tsukiyomi nerfs to his ult. Not only the damage mitigation, but also the power scaling per hit. Definitely needed. This character is running the ranked streets. He's a very, very good character, and probably the main reason is his ultimate is just so amazing. The rest of his kit's just really fluid, though. He's just a character that feels good to play for most people. This is a huge nerf, dude. Guan Yu getting gutted, I'd say. So not only did they nerf him, was it last patch, but they nerfed him very recently. They nerfed his 2 and his 3 cooldown by 2 seconds each, which is a really big nerf. And he's already seeing less play and is already a lot worse, in my opinion. But they're nerfing his ult by 30 damage per hit. 30 damage per hit late game. This character was already kind of hard to play late game because you could just die in the middle of your ult. Like, late game is what I'm talking about, when the ADCs are hitting you. So now your ult's going to be even worse late game. It's also worse early game. And something to keep in mind with this ult change is that Guan Yu ult, the more you hit somebody, the more it multiplies and does more damage. So it's also multiplying less damage now because it's less damage per hit. So his 2 is worse now, his 3 is worse now because of the cooldowns, and now his ult's a lot worse. And I already saw this character is kind of overrated, but yeah, I think this is gonna put him back to where he was a couple years ago, to be honest. So, yo, Gravsy, thank you so much for the 1 year. Can we get some hype in the chat for the boy? I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Welcome back to the Fonzo family. And then Apollo getting tons of nerfs, man. Decrease the stacks gain from damaging an enemy god with an ability from 2 to 1. That's from his 1 on his passive. The moves decrease movement speed, buff/debuff. This is a really needed nerf in my opinion. I think the movement speed buff and debuff from his 3 is just so like, just kind of a little bit bloated. And I think it was kind of frustrating to play against, so that's a nice nerf. And then they also increased the mana cost from his ult from 10 mana plus 40 mana per second to 10 mana plus 40 to 80 mana per second. So late game, if you're in a split push scenario and you don't have Transcendence, and if you just like fly around in the air and float around, that is a lot of mana that you're going to be using. So maybe it might feel really bad to be playing Apollo and just be like running around with your ult and just be by the time you get to a team fight. It's probably not gonna be that bad, but maybe it will just make like Transcendence a more viable item on him and everything. So Athena also getting her 2 nerf because they buffed it to fucking high heavens. So bring it back more in line. So no longer, they reverted the duration increase of the stun, or not the stun, the taunt under 2. 1.2 to 2 seconds. Now it's just 1 to 2 seconds. So you actually have to level it to get to that full duration. It's not just amazing at level 1. Also decrease the magical scaling from 30 to 20% and decrease the base damage from 5170 to 40 to 160. Just some nice nerfs across the board. This character is insane right now. I don't even think this will be enough. I think this character is still going to be top pick, top ban in SPL, in ranked, and everything that you play. This character, especially, doesn't even matter what role you play. She could play all 5 roles besides maybe ADC, and you'd do well with her, I think. This is one change that I don't really get in the bonus patch on her. I feel like quintessential, pretty balanced character. He has been prioritized pretty high right now in SPL, but it's the start of the season, and I think that has something to do with it. And it's literally just like 2 weeks. It's like 2 weeks of this character being like a top pick. And whenever I play against this character in ranked, I'm not like, holy fucking cow, this character is so broken, I need to like ban it. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is a character people are comfortable on. So I personally think that these changes were not necessary. He does win a lot of matchups in lane, but he also is a lot worse than other gods late game. As far as like hyper carrying and everything. And I don't know. I personally just don't think this was really necessary, but it is what it is. It's just a really comfort pick. It's been in the game for so long, and I feel like it's a quintessential like skill character as well. So I like it. I like it being in the game personally. I don't care. I don't care if like, if I wasn't on a team with Fineokay and he was top picking against me and he was owning me with it, I wouldn't be like, holy fuck, on her so broken. You know what I mean? I'd be like, we need to get better as a team. Like, he's just good. You know what I mean? That's just how I see it though. Set nerfs. This is one change I actually kind of agree with because Set's really good. I think he's maybe overrated a little bit, but in ranked, he kind of just destroys everything. Shell is getting basically taken out of the game, and that's good for Set. So in order to maybe keep that in line, nerfing him a little bit more so that the Shell change doesn't, you know, bring him back even more into the meta, or maybe, you know, take him over the top. So reducing the physical damage reduction on his 3 Sandstorm. Whenever you have the Sandstorm around you, you just have the physical mitts and everything. And then reducing the skewer damage, which I think is kind of a revert because they buffed skewer damage a while ago to be a lot more consistent and a lot more damage on just like when you don't have a clone out. And now they reverted it kind of, I think, a little bit. So I think he's more just reasonable. I think he was overrated already a little bit, but he's definitely just kind of like, he's probably just like a good character now. And then Sobek getting nerfed. This character definitely deserved it. He's probably the quintessential support right now. Very, very safe. Way too safe of a character, in my opinion. Can get away with being an idiot on this character for the most part. And is just good at everything. Good at zoning. Good at initiating with his pluck. Good at CCing and peeling for his team because he has the knock up on his 2. The pluck, of course, slowing people. Body blocking because he's so tanky. His passive is insane early to late game. At all points in the game, basically, because it makes you so tanky. Long duration CC. He just got everything going for him. But the only thing I would say is that they say solo, he's a good pick, but he's not a good solo pick right now. You can't pick characters like Sobek right now in this meta with like Bluestone and everything. You'll just get so far behind. They'll just out farm you so hard on the map because they have power in their build. They're able to actually hit things hard because they're not a guardian, you know, like you'll just get, he's not actually that viable solo. So it's really just support that this character's a top pick. So but since he's so good in that role, I think it's fine to nerf him, and it's not even that big of a nerf. They literally reduced his 1 by 1 second, so he's still gonna be amazing. These changes are always so weird to me, where they know a character is really, really good and they make really, really small changes, and it goes both ways. Sometimes like a character is so bad and they make really small changes, but they consistently do it and they keep doing it and they keep doing it, similar to like Chalk. And they do it so much that it gets to a point where they make one big change, and all those small changes add up so much that the character is just absolutely OP and ridiculous. There's been a lot of examples. I can't think of one right now because I'm stupid, but it's just a little weird when you like make a lot of small changes, then one big change, and then boom, it just like takes it over the top. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I see it. But that is the bonus patch, so that's done. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff I agree with, a lot of stuff I disagree with. Those are my thoughts on it. Coming from a professional player. Oh my goodness. So what do you guys think? What do you guys agree or disagree with in the chat?